enjoy this interview with Serj Tankian. Serj, I'm Kenny. Thank you for coming on the show,
hey, Kenny.
man. This is really exciting.
Thanks, man. I've been enjoying your show. Hi, Carol.
Hi. Great to meet you.
Been really loving it. Like I hit up Robert like a month or so ago, and I'm like, I just discovered it. I didn't know it was around, and I just realized you've been putting on shows for since 2018. So on my daily walks, drives, everything, it's you guys now.
Wow.
That's so awesome.
And then I told Kenny and Carol, you won't believe who just wrote me, who's been listening to the show, and their response in big caps was, "Oh God, get him on the show!"
Yeah,
how could we not?
That's
man?
awesome.
I mean, I feel like we should
guys.
just get started and we can have a discussion here. But joining us now, he's a Grammy-winning songwriter, frontman for System of a Down. He's also a rising star in the film composing world. We're so thrilled to have Serj Tankian joining the show today. Serj, thank you for coming on Score the Podcast. How you doing?
Thank you, Kenny. I'm doing well. Thanks, brother. Yeah, just busy, running around.
Busy is good. And Serj, always great to see you.
Great to see you too, Robert.
We've known each other for
tell us how you guys met.
I think, Serj, would you tell us? Because I'm not sure I remember correctly, because I don't know if it's when I was in the audience watching you thinking, oh, I got to meet this guy, or where did we meet?
We met, I mean, I could be wrong. We may have met before then, but for sure we met in your office at Fox with all your music department people who I knew. In 2000, I want to say it was 2008, I had just put out Elected Dead Symphony, and Elected Dead the record, and just started working with Warner at the time, and walked into your office because obviously I've been interested in composing for film for a long time and have been doing it now for a little bit. So I walk in and you're like, hey, so welcoming, and we sit down, you know, we have a great chat. And I remember playing you a few tracks. Of course, I didn't really have the kind of cinematic suite that I kind of have developed over the number of years. At the time, they were mostly just really interesting kind of, you know, sound cues of varying degrees. And I remember you picked one. It was a really strange dog, you know, like it was a really interesting one. And you're like, you literally listen to it and you go, oh, I love that. That's the future of film music. And I was like, oh man, the future of film music's pretty fucked up then.
I wonder if I was right or way off. It was, or a combination. But oddly, in 2008, you playing me tracks that, you know, weren't necessarily sound like film music or were kind of odd, kind of did become the future of film music. Everybody started to, I mean, I would see it because I was sitting in that chair where there were so many film scores coming past me. I saw them changing from being about the movie exactly to being kind of vibey. And I think what I got from your music was, this is a vibe, and for the right film. And then I heard it. I mean, I watched I Am Not Alone and thought, yeah, Serj has grown enormously in just how to score a film. But man, that's beautiful music. Beautiful scoring on that film.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you.
It was orchestra and electronics?
It was in the box orchestra and electronics. But yeah, there were, I think we did a few, from what I remember, a few soloists on top, but, you know, documentary, kind of budget documentary score, obviously. It was interesting because it was that film, about the 2018 Velvet Peaceful Revolution in Armenia was something that I also helped bring together. So I not only composed it, but I helped produce it, executive produced it, and helped, you know, fund it and put together. And so it was a really joy, kind of labor of love, and inspired by, you know, the events. And what's interesting, and I think you'll appreciate this, Robert, is that, you know, I always thought I'm really bad at writing happy music, because to me, writing dark and broody music is quite easy. It comes naturally. And for some reason, that became kind of like, I was so inspired by what had happened and the transformation, the progressive democratic transformation, and seeing what was happening and the energy of the youth there. and it made me write happier type of kind of moving kind of music, which
triumphant in some ways.
Triumphant in some ways, yeah. So that was interesting, yeah.
Well,
it was great.
Go ahead.
I saw that you were involved in the filmmaking and also a movie star. You're on screen, so there's the whole future there. But great project. I was inspired.
Thanks, Robert.
I'm sure we have plenty of listeners who know System of a Down, and one of the things we like to do on the show is kind of go through your musical evolution as Serj, not just System of a Down. But when I first heard the song Sugar on your self-titled album, the first album, I think it came out in '98, that was like I was a hip hop kid, and I didn't really listen to the rock stations, and I heard that song and it blew my head off because it's a perfect, it's like the demo reel of what System of a Down is. It has a little bit of everything that you do stylistically, but I'm wondering where that came from. Were you musical growing up? Because I heard an interview that said that you had no aspirations of becoming a rock star. So what was your upbringing and what inspired your sound of System of a Down, first off?
So thank you for the question, Kenny. It's really interesting. My kind of my road toward music was very unique. I didn't start like most of my band members in System of a Down at the age of 7 or 8 and playing music and knowing that would be my destiny my whole life. I really didn't have I didn't gravitate toward music as a young kid, and my parents even bought me a guitar, said, "Do you want piano lessons?" And I'm like, no, I'm too busy with my studies, that kind of thing. And it's in university. I went to Cal State Northridge studying marketing. That's when I picked up a small Casio keyboard and started playing around as a meditative gesture, as a way of kind of just escaping it all. And it really kind of helped. And then I got a really nice keyboard and started, that was my first instrument, picked up guitar and all of that. And still years later, after I graduated university, it took me a few years to admit to myself that music was my destiny. We made a film called Truth to Power with Live Nation Productions, and it kind of shows that kind of road of how I went from not knowing that this was my destiny to admitting that this was, and it was a beautiful kind of awakening, an epiphany. I always say I had to go to the far reaches of who I don't want to be to admit to myself who I am.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. That's a little bit like Michelangelo saying, I have to take away all the things in the block of marble that are not the David to find out what the David is inside. I love that, Serj. That's so beautiful, self-aware.
Thank you.
Which great musicians are.
Yeah. So I want to know. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go.
So I had this epiphany, and I'm like, shit. Music is my life. This is what I need to do. And from that day forward, I dove in. Deeply, and that was before, obviously, System of a Down, and how that sound developed with System is very interesting because we have 4 unique characters in the band, all pulling and pushing this unique kind of experience apart in different directions, and it's those amalgamation or diversity of those directions that make the interesting sound of the band.
And were you a singer as a kid?
My dad sung. He's got a beautiful voice, and so I'd sing with him and stuff. But I wasn't, I guess I did sing. I did. They would write me up, and I would sing in the church. So I would sing, as a choir, as a small boys choir. I had a great voice, but I got tired of doing that. And then one day I remember telling the priest, I don't want to do this anymore, and he was really upset. And he said, in our age, we would be embarrassed to tell the priest that we don't want. I'm like, well, that was your age, wasn't it? So I was also rebellious, but I never, it's interesting that I really didn't take music seriously. And I was, I graduated university. I went to work with my uncle in the jewelry business for years. I had, I knew how to do that. And I've been in the shoe business. I started my own software company. At one point I was like, maybe I should be a lawyer. So I signed up for law school. Well, not law school, but the LSAT exams. And I was driving down from downtown LA to Long Beach to take these Kaplan classes to learn how to take the LSAT. And that was it. That was the trigger, going way too far into what I shouldn't be. And you see all these people, young people excited to become lawyers. And I fucking hated lawyers at the time because my parents were going through a horrific lawsuit and I was dealing with all of that. I was dealing with lawyers. And that became the epiphany that I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I got to do music. This is the only way I could save my life.
Did you do a U-turn on like the 5 freeway? I mean, or an emotional U-turn kind of?
No, but I skid. It was a rainy night. It was very dramatic. It was a rainy night. It was like late at night after these Kaplan classes in Long Beach. Driving home, I was on Laurel Canyon going up the hill, and I had a Jeep Wrangler at the time, and I skid. I literally stopped. I banged my fucking, steering wheel. And I'm like, I'm going to fucking do music. I'm going to fucking, I just literally screamed. And that was it. And that changed my life.
Some people don't have as dramatic of a realization, but that's the real deal right there.
Yeah.
Or as dramatic of a result.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people may be in Laurel Canyon at this very moment banging the steering wheel and saying, I'm going to fucking do music. But not all of them then go out and create a worldwide sensation. So you were destined to have that moment, and then thank God you did, because so many people have responded to and been influenced by you.
Yeah, so thank you, Robert. Yeah.
That was a great revelation.
Indeed.
I think I was always interested in your progression as a musician and also moving into film music. I always thought that was such a natural step for you, or a natural inclusion in your efforts.
The opportunity to work with an orchestra came in. I was on tour with my backup band doing my first solo album, Elect the Dead. And I remember I was in Seattle and I got an email from a friend in New Zealand, Bo, who's an artist herself. And she said, I've got an interesting proposition for you. The head of marketing for the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra wants to do something with you. A project, a show, something, And I remember just going, okay, I'll deal with this later, running to a show, sound check. And I remember the tour ended a few weeks after. I was sitting on the couch on a beautiful sunny day in LA, and I looked at the email and this excitement poured over me. And I'm like, I got to do this. I don't know what I'm about to do, but I got to do this. So I started basically, and the way was I stripped the songs down back to piano or acoustic guitars and started writing very easy, kind of minimalistic string and some brass arrangements. They got a wonderful co-composer for me to work with, John Psathis, who's still a friend and we still collaborate. And he works a lot he's in New Zealand and he works a lot with orchestras there. And so I worked with him the first time around, and we did this show in 2009 at the Auckland Town Hall with the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra. And we made a CD DVD that we released on Warner at the time. And it really changed, again, my musical vision. It made me fall in love with the orchestra. It made me fall in love more with film music. I mean, I was already listening to film music, but it made me really kind of go in that direction. And then I started using more orchestral scores on my own solo records. And, I was already, come to think of it, I was doing string arrangements and some orchestral arrangements for System of a Down records, although they're so buried underneath the guitars that you don't hear them. But we actually brought in live, small, amount of players for definitely Toxicity, starting with Toxicity. Yeah. We did it with Steal This Album is a part of that because it was the same sessions. And then also with Mesmerize, Hypnotize as well. Yeah.
Do you think 10, 15 years ago, you pictured yourself actually jumping in full head of steam to film composing, or was it just an idea that you wanted to dabble in? Because I heard another interview you mentioned that you like to change up, you started painting for a while and you're switching the art that you're tackling. But was this a full vision, like you were envisioning you're switching gears into film composing, or is it just something you wanted to dabble in?
No, bro, it's something that I definitely wanted to pivot toward, and it more than 10 years. In fact, I just realized I was hanging out with Jay Ferris. Robert, Jay, Lionsgate, before that, Baby New Music, and now he's doing wellness. He's in the wellness world. And I remembered in 2006, he had introduced me to William Friedkin for a film called Bug with Ashley Judd and Harry Connick Jr. and Michael Shannon. and it was like this dark comedy kind of thing. And he's like, Billy Friedkin wants to meet you. I'm like, wow, that's incredible. That was my first like little break, and I did some character compositions for the film, and so that was my first time kind of really vibing and feeling it, and and then it wasn't until later that I did my first full film, which was a film called 1915 by director Garin Hovhannisyan, who is the same director as I'm Not Alone, interestingly enough.
It's about April 24th.
Yeah, it's about it's actually a kind of like an art house film about the denial of the Armenian genocide, done in a really artsy kind of way. So that was my first full film that I did, and that was 2012, 2015.
We talk a lot about the crossover of Rockstar going to, Danny Elfman, Trent Reznor. Mm-hmm. What's it like for you to jump into a new space where your existing space, you're at the top of the game, everyone knows that you're going to come up with something great, and then you come into film composing and you have all of these people telling you their ideas, and you're used to your ideas.
Right.
How do you tackle that? Is that a weird world for you to jump into, or did you adapt to it pretty easily?
Not at all. I mean, I still have my world of releases, and I just put out an EP called Elasticity of rock songs, along with Truth to Power, and I've got 9 releases slated for this year of my own music, from cinematic to poetry to soundtracks to live recordings of band on tour and that kind of stuff. So I have a lot of space to exercise my own muse, right? So I find working within limitations to be extremely creative and inspiring, because it's kind of like telling someone, as an artist, when you're doing your own stuff, everything's open. You could do whatever the hell you want, but that also means you can use anything you want. What instrumentation do I use? Play around with it and do all this stuff. Whereas if you tell me you're going to write a whole film on this small Yamaha keyboard, or just using this bottle, right?
Nice.
I'm like, fuck, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be exciting, because that limitation makes you more creative. And for me, I'm the type of artist that has always wanted to make diverse type of records, each one completely different. Well, that's my dream come true with film music, because each director wants a completely different type of music. Each film requires...
You just articulated what I love about film music. People say, this sounds like movie music. I hear that all the time, and I want to say,
what is that?
Movie music? What is, that could be a polka. Yeah. It could be a bluegrass song. It could be a orchestral piece. Movie music is everything. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think your style and organic sensibility is so suited to movie music. That's what I've felt.
Thanks, Robert.
Oh, definitely. Right now, dude.
Yeah. No,
you're what they're looking for, I tell you.
We know, was it 2 seasons ago? We had Bear Mccreary on, and we had a full discussion about you. I don't know if you've heard that episode. We were talking about System of a Down, and then freaking Bear, like 6 days later, releases a single with you for Godzilla, and he couldn't say anything on the show, and we were like, oh, we had no idea, but you came up organically. What's your connection with Bear Mccreary? How did you guys meet and collaborate on that?
We met through an agent friend that I was, I've been kind of meeting different agents over the years, and as you do in the business for film scoring, and he represented Bear and introduced us. Bear, I liked his music, and Bear also was a System fan, so we connected and became friends. Bear's half Armenian actually as well, so we share ethnicity as well, and so we kind of hit it off. And so we're always like hanging out and having dinner, having lunch, and one day he calls me. He's like, I got a crazy idea, and I'm like, okay, let's hear it, and he's like, the band has never, Blue Oyster Cult never allowed any film to use the song Godzilla for any of the Godzilla, but I think if we do a cover, the studio is going to love it, the director's going to love it, and I think the band's going to, you want to just play around with it with me? I'm like, sure, too easy, let's do it,
Wait, so did you guys do it before you had permission?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's a gamble. I love it.
Yeah, he pitched it basically. Yeah, we did a demo. He pitched it. They loved it. Band went for it, luckily, and it worked out.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I really love that moment you just described, which is when Bear called you to say, I have a great idea, because we all know there are moments in our lives when you're driving, you're making coffee, you're doing, anything, and you go, oh, wait a minute, you know what would be cool? I'm going to call, you have that moment. I wonder what it was that made him think, I'm calling Serj. I have this idea. If I put together the Blue Oyster Cult thing and Serj, it might work. And so there's something wonderful about that. And it all worked out.
I wasn't driving or having coffee. I was in a kids park, Robert, and they were getting wet. It was summertime, and I was on the grass. The phone rings. I'm like, Bear, hey, what's going on, bro? He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm at a kid's birthday party with water everywhere. What are you doing? So, yeah. Perfect. It's cool, and it's cool to experiment. It's good to try things and work with different people and collaborate. It's fun.
Yeah. Do you draw inspiration differently with film music to writing your system music or your solo stuff?
Absolutely. I mean, look, with film music, you want to understand the vision of the director more than anything else. You want to have him articulate what it is, or her articulate what it is they're looking for. And the more you define that, help them define that, the easier it's going to be for both parties. And I like when before picture, I like kind of developing a few thematic concepts, a suite of thematic concepts, so that I can see if I'm in the ballpark after a conversation with, the creatives, to know that, okay, is this what you're looking for? Because you said you really like cello and you like, and you want the sound to be like this. Is this the vibe that you're, or am I off? Because once you narrow down the tone of the film, you're halfway there. I mean, maybe not halfway there, but you kind of, that's the tough part, right? Understanding what that tone is going to be. And then once you lock that in, tempo map and get it in and get the visuals prior to final cut, after final cut, whatever, all of that is always changing with every film and all of that. So, but it's that establishment, it's that original conversation with the director or the creative, in some case producers, to really, really understand what is the sound of this film? What is this film trying to say? What are the emotional impacts it's trying to convey?
I don't think we could have articulated that any better of what a film composer does.
That's so funny. We're having the same thought. It's like we could edit what you just said and make it a trailer for the podcast saying, if you want to be a film composer, here is exactly what you need to know. You need to get the tone of the film. You need to find out the emotional heartbeat. All the other stuff can be figured out. But once you do it, it just kind of nailed it. I never understood. There were certain composers, and it was very much an LA word that I learned, because not everybody used it. But I'd be with composers at the beginning of a movie, and they'd say, it wasn't tone, they said tune. If I can find the right tune for this movie, everything will flow. And I thought, that's such a simple, almost simplistic word. And what they were saying was tone of a certain melodic sense, that if it's slowed down or it's sped up or it's done minor or done major, that kernel of musical information opens the door to the film. But I think what you're saying is actually very contemporary, which is it's no longer just the melody. It's the tone. It's what's the vibe, because directors don't like you telling the audience, here's how to feel. They want a vibe that sits back a little. So
true.
Serj, you're in the sweet spot right now.
Oh, I wanted to ask you about this, because we talk about licensing and different stuff, but Secret Life of Pets, your song Bounce gets used with this, prissy dog who is, the family leaves and the song comes on and she starts headbanging. And that song is a part of the soundtrack that has an Alexandre Desplat score. I'm just wondering, are you involved do they call you and say, we want to use this? How does your music end up in a big movie like that? Do you have any say in that?
Of course. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly through publishers, and, they reach out to your representatives and they bring you the opportunity. And as soon as we saw that, we were like, Absolutely. Like, Secret Life. They sent us the clip too, and we were all, on the floor dying, going, "This is perfect," because they found something that was so over the top for the scene that it really kind of pushed it. It
was the trailer, man.
It elevated the scene. So
yeah, it was
a trailer. That's right as well. Yeah,
it was a big push. I thought,
and of course, Desplat is incredible. I love his films. The first score of his that I heard was "Girl with the Pearl Earring," and I fell in love with that score.
Oh yeah.
It's very, very cool.
Do you have a dream project or a director or a type of film that you'd like to score?
I'd like to work with.
I just want to say that a lot of directors are listening right now. So
I'd like to work with a lot of different varied directors. I've worked with some directors that do narrative. I've worked with incredible documentary directors. I love incredible stories that influence me. There are many. I'm not going to name them because there's so many of them I'd like to work with. Because I think each project teaches you something different as an artist, and it allows you to exercise what you do, your artistry within that realm in a unique fashion. And I'm looking forward to doing that. Like, I've done one big kind of bombastic action score. It was for Central Partnership, the biggest Russian kind of studio, with a film called Furious, the Legend of Kolovra, which was just total hits. And, the Mongols attacking the Russian enclaves at the time, 12th century, Baku Khan, Badu Khan. And it was awesome. It was awesome getting into the kind of ethnic flavoring of both the Mongolian and Russian side, coupling it up with a modern orchestral score, hiring a live orchestra, having rock instruments integrated in a way that's done interestingly and not just kind of buried, but like alive. It was fun. It was really fun doing that. I love, but I also love doing very simplistic, minimalistic music for documentaries where that you're going to kind of be in the background and, and you just want to kind of give the right mood, attention, flavor, elevate as much as you can, as much as they want you to. Working with Joe Berlinger on a number of films. He's made a bunch of films, from Metallica, Some Kind of Monster, to the Paradise Lost series, and working with him on a new documentary series now for a large streaming company that I can't name confidentially. And
cool.
And some other and some other
6 days from now.
I know, I was going to say the collaboration with Bear and Serj Part 2
featuring Bear.
right, featuring Bear.
Oh, that's great.
That's fantastic. Cool. Of course I have to ask, it's been 16 years. Is there ever any thought to another System album? I know you guys have done a couple singles for different things, but
yeah, we put out 2 songs last year, Protect the Land and Genocidal Humanoids. We were all kind of stunned by the attacks on September 27 of the combined forces of Azerbaijan and Turkey on the Armenian enclave of Nagorno-Karabakh, Artsakh. And so there was a lot of disinformation, a lot of humanitarian catastrophe, a lot of deaths. And so the band basically banded together after 15, 16 years of not making music. And we put out those 2 songs because it was something that was not about us. It was about, justice. It was about telling the truth. It was about raising funds. We raised over $700,000 for humanitarian aid in Armenia.
Amazing.
Donated ourselves separately as well, obviously. But, it was a huge thing for us. And I'm really proud of that moment that we were able to kind of stand up together when it was necessary. As for the future of the band, look, over the years, we just haven't been seeing eye to eye creatively and philosophically as far as what the future of that band is. I think once we do, and there is a chance that might happen, then we will galvanize and make more music. One thing I do have to say is that kind of, I think, holds us back is my reluctance to tour. Over the years, both based on physical health issues like back problems and stuff like that, along with, honestly, having a family, wanting to be around more, and my love for composing for the picture. The combination of all those 3 have made me a bad band member, I guess. So,
well, the good thing about film
laying
music,
it all out there.
the good thing about film music is the film goes on tour and you stay at home. So you can put your movie out and then let everyone go see it without you having to leave the family.
Exactly.
And I think you've just officially crossed the Rubicon into being a complete film composer, because film composers, so many of them say exactly the same, which is, wait a minute, I could play 260 dates a night and be exhausted and miss my family and live out of a suitcase. Or let me get this straight. I could sit in my home studio and do 3 films a year. It's a big moment for a number of people that play in bands.
Funny enough, Robert, it's like people, coming from my touring, rock world into composing for film. A lot of the composers I've met, and I have a lot of friends that are composers. Ramin Djawadi's a good friend of mine, and he did the whole Game of Thrones, tour. And I met a lot of people that you've already interviewed on your show over the years, and they all want to do what I've done, and I want to do what they're doing. So that's the funny stuff. I'm like, and they're like, wow, you toured with, because I've done besides System, besides my backup band, I've done 24 or 25 live orchestral shows around the world with different orchestras around the world, which has been incredible. And they're like, that's what I want to do. And I'm like, well, I want to sit here on this chair, and you can go, and I'll just sit here. It's like, so there's
so human.
It is the other side of the fence.
We want exactly what's on the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
And when we get on the other side of the hill, we look back longingly to say, shoot, that was kind of cool. Yeah. The nice thing about what you're doing, the kind of thing that is in all of us envy, is you're getting a life where you're getting to do all of it.
Exactly.
You've had the experience of touring. You've had the experience of making hit records.
You've done it.
You've had the experience of scoring films like check, check, check. Mm-hmm. These are good things, and it just means that more good things are ahead, Serj. That's what's
Thank
so
you,
cool.
Robert. Yeah, years ago I also did sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's admirable for when creators don't stop when it gets easy or when you're at the top. It's let's start something different and try to master this other thing. And that hunger is what drives the best creators, I think, is just to keep it flowing.
I think so too. It's the diversity of that creativity. And years ago, I did a musical. In 2011, I did a musical called Prometheus Bound with Steven Sater, who had done Spring Awakening years back.
Whoa!
And
I just remembered that. You're right, Steven Sater, who I've known since he worked with Duncan Sheik.
That's right.
1,000 years ago.
That's right. And so we did this beautiful. Musical called Prometheus Bound, based on the Greek tragedy, directed by Diane Paulus and the American Repertory Theater at Harvard. We were in the Oberon Theater for a while. It was a really cool, really incredible learning experience, And so I think, look, you have to do it all. I think you learn from each experience, and it puts you in a different place. And I'm very thankful because I'm financially stable enough to do whatever I want to do. I don't think about what that is going to be, I can, I take on projects where I'm working on a film for months at a time. I could make that in half an hour on stage, but it doesn't matter. Like, that's not, I'm lucky enough to know that I creatively, whatever excites me in the morning is what I should be doing. And that's what I go for, whether it's painting or, whatever it is. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And there's something, I'm not sure, unless it was a very special thing, seeing right now, at this point in your life with family and your career going, it's sort of, do you have to go on tour to support yourself? And if not, isn't it wonderful to have the option to explore the things? I think that's a really wonderful opportunity, and God bless you
thanks, Robert,
for taking it. And
years ago, I started my kind of interest in composing to picture was so large that I wanted to paint music. In other words, I wanted to see what my music looked like. So I started doing these musically composed paintings. I have over 60 musically composed paintings, and I do exhibitions. And you walk in, we have an app that for your smartphone that does optical recognition, recognizes the painting and starts playing the music to it. So each person is able to kind of enjoy this kind of multiple angled musical experience, artistic experience, I should say. That's fun too, because that's, when you look at a painting, of course it's not a moving picture, but it can be if you really look into it, and the music can help it move, So all of these things to me are one kind of tapestry of creative life. It doesn't really matter what I'm working on, what genre it is, or what project it is, whether it's TV, film, or a painting, or writing a song, or doing a collaboration. It all just fits in. It's just one,
gears are
just
turning.
one day.
Well, Serj, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, and the fact that you listen to the show is just so awesome to me. I couldn't believe when Robert said that. So
I'm a fan. Yeah. I'm a fan.
Been a fan of yours for decades. Guys. So we really appreciate it.
Well, we're looking forward to hearing your next work.
Thank you, brother.
Whether it's a painting or a musical or a movie or
I will invite you guys. I will invite you guys.
Oh, we'd love it.
Serj, really a treat to reconnect. I recommend to the audience to go, not only, of course, listen to these records, but I thought I Am Not Alone was so important to see and should be shown in America today, 24 hours a day, because there's a lot there about what a velvet, nonviolent group of people can achieve. That's all I'll say. I recommend the movie.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's coming out in September, which is great.
Great.
So
I thought it was just so good.
Thank you.
Music was so good. Serj, peace.
Thanks, brother. Great seeing you, man.
And same. Really great. Kenny and Carol.
Is that your leaf blower going on in the background there?
I'm trying, as you can hear, I'm trying to move it along because we do live in LA.
Robert's writing a new score, and this is just some of the creative outside of the box thinking we're doing here.
I wish I could tell you, but the neighbor, I think, what day is it? Tuesday? Yeah. It's leaf day right next door, and you can hear it. So
let's leave it alone.
Oh, that's it. We're ending it now. Serj Tankian, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Much love. Thank you, guys.